So yeah, my name's Ian. I own Aardvark with Recruitment, and also Game Shops Direct, and Grads in Games as well. So I'll touch on them as we go through the presentation. But briefly, I mean, Aardvark Swift is a specialist recruitment agency. So we recruit internationally across all levels and disciplines within the video games industry. Game Shops Direct is a job board, and then Grads in Games is a not-for-profit business that specialises in pipelining sort of young talent into the games industry. As I mentioned, we'll probably come across some of these as we go through the presentation. I did think I'd struggle for 15 minutes when Leon asked me to do the talk, and I started thinking about it earlier this week. But then as I've sort of got stuck into this presentation, I've realised just how complicated recruitment strategies can be. I've had to thin that down. I'm not going to be getting into areas like interviewing and skills and diversity and assessments. Lots of things that really should be explored, I think, as part of a full recruitment strategy. So all I've tried to do really is focus on some of the methods that are available for people, and offer a few tips and hints to try and help those that are maybe a bit less experienced when it comes to recruitment, really, in the games industry. I thought it might be wise to kind of frame the challenge a little bit as well and open up with a statement. I think Barclays have just kind of referred to it. I think it was Danny that mentioned it, that there's a massive amount of skill shortage for the games industry. If you are looking at recruitment in that sector, very simply, it's a very, very large challenge. It doesn't matter how much you dress it up. The simple fact is that there isn't enough talent to go around within the games industry. It is probably not too dramatic to say that it's a bit of a global talent war. Demand is far outstripping supply, and this is the market that we're all operating in. So there's thousands of companies across the world. Many of them are competing for the same talent that you're looking for, and many of them have got options that you just can't offer. So it is a tough marketplace. It's a tough challenge. So as I mentioned with the presentation, I'm going to talk through some of the methods that are available. I'll just start that now. So there's the challenge. Sorry, I'll catch up with my slides. So in terms of the methods, the one thing I would say straight away is that it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all solution for a recruitment strategy. There's no silver bullets, really. The one thing I would say, though, is that everybody needs to have a varied strategy. I think the most successful studios operate a good, healthy, mixed recruitment strategy. They're not afraid to try new, innovative stuff that's available, but also they will use tried and trusted methods. So they're the ones that really I'm going to talk about in terms of finding the right mix. It has become complicated. As I mentioned there on the slide, there is literally a dizzying amount of things that you could be doing. My job here at Aardvark Swift with the consultants that I've got here is to try and help them to keep it simple. People get lost in the things that they could be doing to help companies find staff. So sometimes it's up to me to say, well, just get back to basics and do the essential parts of the recruitment mix. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, really, is what I think the essential parts are for studios that are out there looking to hire staff. So I'm going to start with good old-fashioned recruitment agencies. Obviously, I've got to declare a very large interest at this point. I've worked for Aardvark Swift for 20 years and I've owned it for the last 15. So I'm very heavily biased. So take what I say on board and listen to that from a recruitment agent. But we're still around, so many other agencies, and there's many new ones that are entering the fray all the time. And I do believe firmly that they're a vital tool in any successful recruitment strategy. The trick really, though, is finding the right ones, using the right ones, and then using them in the right way. If you want to maximise the impact of the method, and it is quite a costly one, there's a few simple things that I would probably suggest people bear in mind. Work with agencies that have got a strong track record for a start. That means that they should have the expertise to understand what you're looking for, and also deliver the right candidates for you so they don't waste your time. Ask them what they're going to do to fill your vacancies. Don't be scared to say, well, how are you going to do it? What are you going to get up to? What are you going to do with my brand name while you're out there filling vacancies? Get comfortable with the methods and ask them for some timelines and get some delivery expectations. Put them on the spot a little bit. But work closely with them. I think one of the key things is, please don't treat them as a sort of necessary evil. If you're going to take that step and use a recruitment agency, then you do need to treat them as a valuable business partner, just as you would a lawyer, for example, or your bank, that kind of thing. They will be far more effective if you communicate well with them, if you feedback quickly on CVs and interviews, for example. You're going to help them to really hone down their search and not waste your time. Why do I think they're an essential part of the mix? It's quite simple, really, and something that I think maybe people don't understand about maybe agencies is that what they should do if they're a good recruiter is they should offer you a really big advantage over the majority of the other methods, many that I'll talk about today, in that what they should allow you to do is target 60% of the market, the job market, that are passive job seekers. And to explain that briefly, every job market and every industry typically has got 20% of people that are on the job market that are kind of out of work or seeking entry into the sector. Then there's another 20% of people that are actively seeking new opportunities. So they might be looking for promotions or relocations or pay rises, that kind of thing. And then that leaves a whole 60% of the marketplace, which are what we'd call passive job seekers. Now, some of you may be passive job seekers when you stop and think about it, but what these are people that are not looking for jobs. They're happy where they are, they're successful where they are, they're doing okay. But then if they're approached with a better opportunity or the right opportunity or something that's particularly appealing to them, then they might move. And this is where recruitment agencies really should play a part. It's those companies that the companies should be taking your opportunity to this 60% of the people. So ultimately what that means is that a good agency should be sort of 3 times more likely to bring these really hard to find candidates to you. So that's the thing for agencies. Job boards, I'm just going to move that across so I can see what's on the slide. Again, just to declare the interest, and I do own Games Jobs Direct, so I own a job board, and one of the reasons that I bought it is that I do genuinely believe, again, that advertising on job boards is an essential part of the mix for many studios. It doesn't work for everybody, and I think that's what we'll find through the presentation, that you do need to pick and choose what works for you. But what they do offer from a studio point of view is a very cost-effective route to raising your employer brand, and also they're particularly good for hiring the sort of active job seekers that I mentioned earlier. So people that are really out there hunting for jobs that are available, then they will go onto the job boards and they will filter through to your vacancies. I think in terms of tips for job boards, what I would say is, if you try and use the job board in a way where you can get the maximum or the longest term package that you can afford. If you can try and build an ongoing larger presence on these sites, it really does make a difference. Having the odd job here and there can be quite sort of useless in a way. What you need to do is sort of build your brand on the site, and that will produce results. I think it's fair to say that you're unlikely to find these sort of superstars on job boards. For any studios that are looking for AAA sort of graphics coders and engine programmers that have got 5 and 6 games behind them on the credits list, then you're not going to find these guys hanging around on job boards. They simply don't need to use them to find the next job. So it's about picking the right sort of tool to find those sort of people within that you're looking for. Next one I'm going to talk about is internal recruitment. Now it's a really growing trend in the games industry, and we've got probably some internal recruitment people on the call today, and we started to see these guys coming in probably around about 10 years ago, I'd guess now. And there's a huge variety of people that work in what we would call sort of internal recruitment, very different skill sets, and it can be a bit of a minefield if you're a studio and you're looking to sort of transition across and hire these kind of people. But it is a great idea. They are very effective if you get the right people. And I think in terms of doing that, the tips that I would give, again, maybe just a couple, to sort of say, well, try and find experts that have worked in the sector or have worked in internal recruitment in similar sectors, so they can bring those skills. Maybe they've got a good track record they can point to and some really good solid processes that they can show you they're going to use. But try to find people that are very stats and delivery focused, very keen on analysis and return on investment. So they know what they can tell you what's going on at any time within your business. But also at the same time, kind of beware that there's a lot of certainly ex-recruitment agency recruiters or people that move around into internal positions. I'm very proud to say that we've had a lot of people that have come through our ranks here that have gone on, they've come in as graduates and we've trained them up and we've given them a good sort of base, and then they've gone on to build fantastic careers at companies like Unity and Bandai Namco. So some of these guys are very good, and there's nothing wrong with hiring guys from recruitment agencies. But like in all industries, some are not so good. So what I would say is reference people quite carefully. Just like in all professions, there can be reasons why recruiters are sort of moving around. So do make sure you do your due diligence and get references for people. Don't get burned. I think I'd say about internal recruiters, I think, in my opinion, ideally they need to be that within your organisation. They should be people that are approaching the most talented people on the market for you, on your behalf, directly, then interviewing them and getting them on board. But if they're also spending time advertising vacancies with agencies and then dealing with those agencies, scouring job boards and driving your internal team to make better hires, then it's all fantastic activity. And I think we've really seen as a recruitment agency that when we work with really good internal recruiters at studios, then they get fantastic success, and we get a little bit of success as well, which is great for the clients, because that's what we want to do is produce the best talent and get them on board for them. I think you've got to be careful that you've not got internal recruiters just kind of shoving CVs around though and writing job specs. That's really not what you're looking for. You want them to make an impact. I think sometimes it's difficult to get that, and you do need them to sort of produce results and produce stats so you can see what they're up to. Just going to move on now to employer brand and marketing and social media. I think again it's a key part of the mix. Advertising and marketing, it definitely needs to be considered, but again I think it's a little bit of one of those where you need to have the right manpower internally to make it work. There's an abundance of places you can stick adverts and you can spend money, whether that's on the sort of news-based sites like gamesindustry.biz, whether it is sort of job boards that I mentioned. You've got print magazines, and then of course we've got good old social media, which is a fantastic avenue. But all of these advertising and marketing sort of, if you like, platforms can be effective, but it does need to be done to a high quality. And you also need to have the sort of tracking and return on investment measurements or measuring sort of structure in place. Because targeting the adverts at the right audience is great, but you need to know who your audience is and you need to know where they are. Are they on LinkedIn? Are they on Twitter? Are they on ArtStation? Maybe it's all three. Maybe some things work better for your company than others. And without a good deal of kind of trial, failure, iteration, you're kind of guessing really, and it can be an expensive guess. So my tip on sort of advertising and marketing is maybe again try and find someone to hire in that really knows what they're doing when it comes to recruitment marketing, so they know what they're doing when it comes to measuring results and trialing different things. And the other thing I would sort of say is, again, before you go out and spend a big pile of cash on adverts, you've got to make sure that the foundations are there, and make sure that things are right before you run the ads. So if you want people to apply, the adverts have got to be good. They've got to be written well. They've got to be appealing. They've got to be there, written in the right way to attract diverse talent, for example. And you should make sure that when these people land on the eventual destination, so it might be the online vacancy that's on your website, it might be on a job board, you've got to make sure they're impressed. So you've got to make sure that your employer brand is, to use a games phrase, sort of AAA. Talk about who you are, why people should want to work for you, explain the benefits, the projects, the great stuff that you've done, and really big yourselves up. The adverts are a complete waste of time if they're not sold by the eventual destination that they arrive at. I think again, focus on the fact that it is really a global battle. There's thousands of people, thousands of places where these people can work, and you've got to give them reasons why they should apply to you. So that's that one covered off. Graduate recruitment. Big thing for me. I think it's probably become a passion of mine over the years that I've worked in the games industry. I mentioned earlier and so did the Barclays guys, that there's not enough talent out there. So growing your own is really essential, I think, if you've got the capacity to do it. It's not just true in the games industry that there's a talent shortage. It really is the same in a lot of other tech sectors. So if you have got the manpower, then please do try and focus on this stuff for your business. Grads in Games that I mentioned, I should declare that now, I suppose, that it is a not-for-profit business that I set up, which having worked in academia for a short period of time, or with Aardvark and trying to get graduates into jobs, we realised how many good graduates there were out there that just weren't making it in. They needed a bridge, they needed a helping hand, and hopefully we provided that with initiatives like Careers Talks, with the Get in the Game Careers Talk we take around the country, and the Search for a Star talent competition. So all this is increased the depth and the diversity of the talent pipeline that's being fed into the UK games industry. So graduate recruitment's it's been a bit of a slow burn for the last 10 years or so. Some people were already doing it. A lot of people were quite adverse to it. But now I think it's fair to say that most studios do hire graduates, certainly across the code teams and many across art teams, others that are hiring into QA, and maybe a few that make it into sort of junior production. And I think what puts people off is that it can be a very time-consuming sort of method of recruitment and a bit of a challenge. It does need a bit of planning, and hiring the right graduates is key. And even when you get them on board, there needs to be a bit of thought and attention given to people that are coming into your organisation as fresh into the workplace. Few tips on graduate recruitment, although it's essential, if you can do it. I think if you haven't got the manpower, and you think you can't spare the team members to get stuck into this, then get hooked in with whether it's Grads in Games, whether it's Into Games, whether it's sort of Ukie student activities and hubs. There's quite a lot going on out there that you can piggyback the work that's being done, and maybe offer some support, whether it's financial or whether it's with a little bit of manpower, that can help raise your awareness and maybe help you make some hires this way. Make connections with your local colleges and unis. Try to get your staff out to do careers talks, reviewing student work, and help them to produce the kind of people that you want to hire. Certainly not a quick fix. It's not an easy part of the recruitment strategy, but it is a really great long-term play if you can get involved in it. And I think the thing that we've found over the years is that it brings an awfully good opportunity for your own staff as well to get out and get some reward. We've seen so many developers that go out and do careers talks and visit unis, and they come back energized and reinvigorated because they feel like they've given a bit back. Internships I'll touch on. I know there's guys from EA that are coming up, and I'm really interested to see what they do with internships, because there's probably 4 or 5, maybe 6 or 7 companies that are great with interns within the games industry. The rest of the industry is a little bit kind of lagging behind, I think, and it is a really, really good thing to do. But again, it can be difficult for studios that have not got the kind of manpower. So if you can get involved with internships, then great. And it'd be great if we can see how EA have done that and have a look at people like Sumo, Creative Assembly, Ubisoft Reflections that are making internships work for them. So it's tricky, but it's really effective. Sorry, I will just flip through that. What I wanted to mention here, let me just see where we're at. Pop back to that. I wanted to mention Brexit at this point. I don't really want to talk about Brexit much. I'm sure we're all fed up of hearing about it. But I think it will impact on graduate recruitment quite a lot. There's some really, really high caliber European universities, and it's going to impact the supply of those people coming across from these universities. People can still do that and you can still hire them, but it is going to become quite expensive. Sort of paying £6,000 or £7,000, maybe more, to get each graduate across is probably going to be restrictive for many studios. And then just leading on to sort of Brexit in general, one point that I would make in terms of recruitment strategies, that it is going to make hiring EU for UK businesses, it's going to make hiring people from the EU a lot more expensive, and there's a lot more red tape to go through. There's no other way to sort of to dress that up. It is going to be problematic for the UK games industry. We did some research recently and found that sort of 20% of our placements over the last 2 years have come from or would have involved visas under the new system. So that shows just how much it's going to impact, and it's going to be up to sort of UK studios to decide how they deal with that, whether they take on the additional cost and the hassle or look to hire maybe more from the EU or other areas. So it is going to have an impact that you do need to consider for your strategy. little bit on tools and tech and return on investment. I'm not going to get into massive detail, but just to sort of stress that I think activity is really key when it comes to recruitment. Being busy and doing lots of stuff is great, but it's not the only key to success. The real key is probably measuring an analysis of what you're doing. If you don't know what's working and you don't know what isn't, then you can't iterate, you can't try different things, you can't evolve your strategy, and you can't get the best out of your spend and your time. So you do need to build that sort of activity into your plan. Take time to gather your results, track where your placements have come from, track where your applications are coming from, get somebody to give you a hand with Google Analytics and the real sort of nitty-gritty of the data if necessary. Tools and tech wise, a CRM system. Using a modern CRM system is absolutely essential in my mind. I can't remember life now here without using a CRM system to track data, to track candidates, to track clients and all that kind of thing. So it's hard for me to imagine how anyone would handle recruitment using Word and Excel and a variety of different documents to keep up to date. So if you're doing recruitment on any kind of scale, I would say that, yeah, look into getting a dedicated recruitment CRM and make that probably the first thing that you invest in. LinkedIn, I'll lump into this area. It is a platform that I think needs to feature in everybody's strategy. Approximately, probably about a third of our placements last year across the games industry were sourced from sort of LinkedIn activity of some description. So it's clearly a key business tool for us as an agency. That might not reflect quite as strongly for direct recruitment, but it certainly should be something your internal team are using on a daily basis. And if you are searching for these unicorns, as we call them, then it's a platform that you should definitely invest some time in. There's plenty of others. I mean, ArtStation, GitHub, Discord, Reddit, Facebook, Twitter. The list is pretty endless. There are many, many places where you can put time into, but you have got a finite amount of that time. So research and investigate and try and decide what you've got time for. Sorry, I've just skipped through that one. So in conclusion, really, so I'm done now. You'd be glad to know. I think the key to it really is probably use some of the established recruitment methods. They're not going anywhere, and they're there for a reason. They do produce results, so I think you should rely on them. But also, don't be scared to bolt on and research, and then bolt on some of these more innovative, newer options. And then make sure you measure and monitor all your activities and figure out the kind of recipe or the mix that's right for you and your business. This will be affected by things like your budget, the speed of the growth of your company that's required, the internal structure of your HR and recruitment team, how appealing your studio is, location of your studio. All of those factors, and many others as well, will affect which methods you need to use. So it really is building your own bespoke strategy from what's out there. And I think the final tip that I would probably give to finish is don't look for that silver bullet that's going to solve all your problems. Try and break down the roles that you've got into different sort of into smaller parts. So have a look at the different types of vacancy, the different levels of vacancy, the different areas within your business that you're recruiting for. Look at what's worked before for each different sort of pot of vacancies, if you like, and then analyze what's needed to sort of rise to that challenge, and think about whether it is the same technique that you're going to use for different business areas, whether it's something different, and don't be scared to throw a few different sort of strategies and solutions in for the different vacancies that you've got within your business. It really does need to be a good mix. So hopefully that helps a few people with some ideas. As I say, there's a lot more we could get into, a lot more detail, so I'm happy to take questions or speak to people after. Thank you very much.